Hey everyone, welcome back. For our next speaker, I first met her, let's just politely say more than 10 years ago. And we were talking at a conference, and what I began to appreciate was the volume of data that is collected in the retail organization, but particularly by this organization. Kroger, being one of the largest retailers in the world with all the various brands and divisions, collects an amazing amount of data. And they believe at Kroger that enterprise performance management and analytics are critical to their success. And the fact that every retailer out there gathers data is one thing, but what Kroger does, they truly add value to it. And it's under the leadership of this person. So I reached out to her and I said, I know this is a crazy time. I know you are personally spearheading, leading hundreds of different cubes and applications and people through this trying, changing time. I said, could you manage to fit in 45 minutes just to talk about how Kroger has adapted retail in times of COVID? And this person said, you're right, this is a horrible time, but there's never a great time. And for the community, I will do it. So I just wanted to say thank you. And I'm really happy to introduce Elizabeth Farrell, Director of Financial Reporting Systems from Kroger.
Thank you, Edward. That was very nice. I always, you never know what somebody's going to say about you, but it has been a great, deep friendship that we've made, and honestly, with most of this community. Okay, so with that, I'm supposed to, let's see, start my video. Okay, make sure, and then I'm supposed to share my screen. There we go.
Elizabeth, the share screen button is at the bottom, the green button. You got it. We see your screen now.
Okay, I'll put it in presentation, slide deck. There we go. Okay.
Perfect, looks great.
Okay. So I put my headphones on though, so I don't want to get interrupted, but unfortunately we have P&G going on in another room. I'm married. Okay. So, yes, Edward asked me to do this, and I really enjoy going to other people's, finding out what they're working on and how they're adding value. And I go to the conferences and I take notes, and whatever somebody is doing, it applies somehow to us. So I'm hoping that you will find some value in what I'm gonna present here. So with that, let's see. About Kroger, I have to put the slide on everything just to let you know what our purpose is, and that we have over 60 banners, and we're in 140 countries. I think people mostly think we're just in the United States, but we have businesses all over the world, and we're deeply investing. We also have a Feed the Human Spirits and Fresh for Everyone, and we are trying to really promote equality and no one goes hungry. So the zero hunger, zero waste is a big push for us right now. So my standard Kroger slide. Okay, so I wonder how I can move the little pictures of people. Okay, I got them. Okay, so I thought, but I guess before I get to the Kroger, I did not make a slide about me, but I do realize that maybe not everybody knows me. And I'm Elizabeth Ferrell. I work at Kroger. I've been at Kroger better than 10 years. I have 25 years EPM experience. So I've been following Edward for, like you said, longer than 10 years. Truly enjoy the books. My team enjoys the books. And, you know, when I say that I know the author and the people that have added to those books, they're always so impressed. So the fact that the community is this available, the people are available to you, that I'm encouraging you to reach out to me or ask us questions, that's that's the power of this community. But I've been primarily S-base and got into some Dodeca, put in planning many times, a lot of on-prem stuff. And this last year, I was asked to lead an Oracle Cloud implementation and just lead the GL side. We have a whole modernization team effort that is going into to Kroger, and it is modernizing systems from supply chain, and I mean just everything, so we can embrace the whole digital platform. And in order to do that, we had to do finance and the GL. I've always been reporting and everything, so doing the GL, even though I'm an accountant and an engineer, it was broadening my scope a little bit. So that's when Edward says I was busy learning and making sure that it's a seamless product. So we did get 29 Oracle Cloud products, and that's what we are currently in parallel with. It's a fascinating journey. We still have thousands of S-base cubes that we are converting over. They are still on-prem. We are going to be moving those to the cloud once we can take things in stages. But most people want to understand that we have 50,000 users. When I say that, they're consuming our reporting. We have about, and I just did the security exercise, but like 2,700 or so that are actually inputting forecasts and journal entries and things like that. So they're actually interacting with the system on a daily basis. But when we talk about who's actually consuming our data, it's pretty big, and they are actually logging into our systems and pulling down that data. We do think we're the largest Oracle Cloud instance, so you guys can challenge me on that. But I will say Oracle's been a big partner on trying to make this really work for us. And every time, we have, wow, it feels kind of slow. Well, what are you running? Okay, we're running some allocations. Okay. They'll make it bigger. They have an expand and contract sort of thing. It's really fascinating. So I'm learning a lot about how to manage large cloud, and Oracle's been there for us. So but I do think you guys should also understand that we are also using Dodeca, SmartView, Azure, and Visio. So a lot of people are ask, do you just use all the Oracle stuff? And nobody really does, I don't think. It's been my experience. But we are doing a lot of things through these other platforms. And if you have questions about how we're making that work, I'm happy to answer those. But it's also a lot of smart people. And we sit around with the design team and come up with what's our problem, how are we going to solve it. And then I sit and maybe have lunch with Edward and say, what are you working on? So those are the sorts of things that we're doing at Kroger. But just to give you some background. And what I'm going to try to go through here is how did COVID affect us as a company, and then finance in general, and then my department, and how we had to kind of, like everyone else, stand our thought process up on end and think about it differently. Okay, so this is the big busy slide, and I mostly wanted to talk through some of these. And I want to start with, I used to, when my team would get very overwhelmed with our deadlines and how we're trying to serve our customers, because of the forecasting and the reporting that we do and how fast we can turn it over. What I find is that they feel from our customers that they can't make a decision that is very important at high levels in Kroger without our data. So, and our reports being ready and accurate and tied out and really working. So they feel it. And I used to say, okay, calm down. We're not curing cancer. This is groceries. It'll be okay. And we'll figure it out and we'll get it done just like we always do. And that always made everybody feel better. And then I go to these conferences and I run into to the St. Jude people who are doing EPM and actually curing cancer. So I'm just like, man, what do you guys say when you're stressed out? But what happened during COVID is I realized that what I say to them to try to bring peace of mind is not necessarily, I don't know that I feel like it's true anymore. I agree we're not solving cancer, but we had families that needed essentials. We had folks that didn't feel comfortable getting groceries any other way unless they went into or had someone deliver it to their car and wipe it all down, and they could feel like they could go feed their families. We also have pharmacies that are not just your everyday pharmacy. We also have a specialty pharmacy business that is for those cancer fighting drugs that save lives, and that if you don't take it several times a day, your health will decline quickly. So we really had to get those up and running and make people feel comfortable that they could come to the grocery and get the things that they need to keep their lives happy, productive in this time. So I started feeling like our company actually was doing a little bit more than just delivering groceries. So there's a sense of pride there too. And I think all retailers right now are feeling that. Like, how did we keep society going? Maybe you added smiles or I don't know. I looked at some of the other retailers here, and I've ordered Lululemon stuff online because honestly, we've added. My husband and I go walking at lunch and after work just to try to get out of the house, just to try to reinvigorate, just to try to get time together. We're working so much at home that those walks became how we share a moment together. And I needed some workout clothes, and Lululemon was there for me. DSW, I got some gym shoes. We are running through the gym shoes. And maybe they're not delivering pharmaceuticals to everybody, but I will say they are delivering a lifeline. So I think all retailers had to step their game up, and I'm impressed by that. And maybe I have a different view, but it did feel really good to me. I will also say that our partners in the contracting world, so Oracle, Deloitte, EY, and Ferrell, we've also got S Analytics. We've got some folks that we have been leaning hard on to support us not only during our implementation, but to fill in the gaps of how many more reports we had to produce because people needed their data to make decisions on how to move forward. But those folks are also adding how we're delivering this. So how did it affect Kroger? Like the first bullet point, I started understanding what essential meant. And it really was the people that are stocking our shelves, delivering the groceries, our drivers, things like that. But we couldn't schedule any of those things without the data that's coming through Oracle. And I do feel like that was absolutely helped us feel like we were part of the essential, at least the support staff for the essential folks. But the biggest shift, and I saw it was so fast. It was really overnight, but we always talk about retail being penny profits and automating and, squeezing more value out of those pennies and making sure that we are keeping our prices low enough and being competitive and still able to support our philanthropic pieces and then pay our shareholders and our employees well, right? So all of those things are a balance, and And we have made it into a science. And I will say that when we started seeing our shelves empty, it just, all that went out the window. And we're just like, anything it takes to deliver, absolutely anything, whatever you need as store leadership or the people on the front lines, we were empowered to make those decisions. And I was so proud. I was also a little shocked because I'm like, that's going to be expensive. But at the same time, I'm like, I felt like I was being a neighbor, not just a grocer. I was being a neighbor. So we empowered the local leaders to hire, to source, purchase. Like they had to, before we were able to standardize some of these things, a lot of that plexiglass that went up between the associates and the customers was just, ran down to another retailer, home improvement stores. And we just purchased stuff and put it up, just whatever we could do to make sure that folks felt comfortable coming in. And then every cleaning supply, we did have to make a choice between selling it or using it. And a lot of times we had to use it. Right at the beginning, we were not able to sell a lot of those things. We had to put limits on them. I will say my husband works in family care at P&G. So he is, he's a paper engineer for toilet paper. So, he and I would come home just like, oh my gosh, like what is going on? And how do we solve this? And it was a fascinating time to be at Kroger and P&G. and our friends who know what we do for a living was just like, oh my gosh, what are you guys seeing? And so it was interesting because they did the same sort of spin. But we didn't look at data at this time. Right at the beginning, we weren't looking so much at data. We were looking at how to deliver and just get it done. So that's where we said we prioritized the high demand and high need products over higher profit items. So we would look at, this is probably right after the shelves were completely empty, to when we were able to start getting product back in there. We're running 65% in stock, which we're used to running 99, 98. I mean, those are the types of numbers that you move it half a point on out of stocks and everybody throws their hands up and is worried. And when you see numbers like 65, you're like, oh my gosh. And so they started making decisions on, okay, mustard greens don't move very fast, but collard greens do. So if people, just need green, just get greens out there. We also, we chartered some aircraft to make sure that medications got to where they needed to be. We also sent some of our own trucks to the farms because they were out of trucks, and then we were out of containers to put the milk in. So we spun up some of our own containers. So just trying to solve things that we hadn't done in a supply chain before. And we paid a premium to do those things, but at the same time, people need milk and they need medications and they need fresh fruits and vegetables. So those were terribly important. We also did something interesting. We had a few properties that we had moved the grocery store down the street. You've seen things like this. And we opened those properties back up just as fulfillment centers. I got emails saying, can you come and fill some orders? Okay, I can do 4 hours. I can go down and pack some orders away for someone and get an idea of how my data drives this supply chain and the reporting that comes from that. It was really interesting and powerful and a sense of community. And I know all of you have stories just like that on how your community rallied, even if when I would come back and take groceries to my neighbors, who I didn't want them to go out of their house. There's some older folks that are on their own, and I wanted them to be able to stay home. And that was a lot easier for me or my husband to go do it. But I hear stories like that all over the place. So the other thing that I thought was very interesting was, as we found a successful model that made people comfortable to come in and made our associates comfortable to work, we were called upon to share that in Washington, D.C. And Rodney has spoken several times about how COVID affected us and how we had to turn on a dime and start doing things differently. So we get to finance, and I think you guys do have a way to put questions or something in a chat too. So maybe that's at the end. I think that's at the end, Emily. But if you think about it, especially the Kroger questions, let me know. But we're going to get more into finance in particular in my department, and I think you all will have very similar stories. So I'm not sure that anything we did was revolutionary. It was just that it was fast and surprising and had to be done. So now we talk about how it affected finance. And I think I kind of threw some stuff in here that were not necessarily finance exactly, but it does all flow through us. So if you think about financial reporting, and I have the financial systems and the reporting. So I have two verticals and a help desk in my department. And there's a vertical for all the Oracle systems. So that has some very talented people that are running the GL and EDMCS and FCCS and that stack and all those 29 products. Then there's also the reporting team that is running Dodeca and Essbase and Azure. So there is stuff that sits on top of that. So the forecasting, that means the forecasting and budgeting is completely run out of Essbase and that team. And they work closely. We have a company called 8451, and it was a spinoff of dunnhumby partnership we had, and they are completely data-driven analytics. And we've done some very fascinating things with that data, and we normalize it and then use it to make decisions on how to order, how to deliver the groceries that you guys want, and how your tastes are changing and how you want to live your life. And we want to answer, we want to be what they always say is, we want to be the answer when you say what's for dinner. So they say funny stuff like share of stomach. So what is the share of your stomach that Kroger gets? We have restaurants, we have all kinds of things, but that data is not valuable until you put a versus sales or versus item count or versus the things that come out of our financials versus profit. So was that investment valuable? And did that investment reduce over costs? Did that investment, did it drive more customers to get what they were looking for? Did they choose a different item than they would have? So if you were coming to our grocery and you were looking for hand sanitizer and we only let you buy one, did you come back to get another one later? Or, did we service you? So those sorts of things are driven by our analytics, and the finance department needed to know all of that, and they needed to know it quickly. So the very first bullet, the forecast and budget process that we had just instantly was gone. I mean, we do a daily sales process email that goes out to tens of thousands of people. And the first few days, I was looking at year over year sales increases of 146%. And I've never seen a number like that. I've never seen anything like that. When we shift holidays and things like that, because Easter and Thanksgiving kind of move around the year over year, when we don't get the data slid exactly correct, or if a period falls in between, Easter shifts periods. Sometimes it drives me bonkers. So we try to shift our data so the year over year looks right. I'm sure you guys do too. And so when it does that, it looks different, but it never looks like 146%. And then the next day, you just know the stores are destroyed. The people can't keep up. The associates can't stock. The trucks can't get it there. People are worried about feeding their families. They don't they're doing this to all the retailers, so there's not really someplace else to go. It is really, it makes you worry. Makes you worry that you're not, that what could you do to help? So we had to change our modeling, and I mean quickly. And our team of folks are amazing. They know what the stakes are, and and at this point, you're like, this isn't about making money. This isn't about shareholders. This is about how do we get anything on the shelves that will help. And everybody just pitched in, and that's when you do feel like you're adding value to something. So there was a little bit of joy in that you can do your part. Like our jobs, as much as we are just administrative overhead, or you can say we're just reporting, or we're just groceries, we felt like we were adding value. But we had to use a run rate. And so that means getting data much quicker out of systems that don't normally close. And so everybody on our entire Kroger technology and the reporting team had to kind of switch and load data differently and change all the reports. It was a lot of work, but it was also the only way that merchandising could know what they had to order. Like, what else do we need to find? And then we had to quickly approve new vendors because folks were running out of things. So again, merchandising plans were destroyed, supply chain, additional employee, and massive cleaning costs all skyrocketed. So all of these sort of overhead systems had their own forecasting system. So supply chain, which we also call logistics, they have a whole set of S-based cubes and internal data that's coming in. And they had to start using trucks and things that weren't even on our systems. So how are we getting that data in there? A lot of manual things, and a lot of work went into that. Employees. So we have what's called ELMS, an enterprise labor system that is 56 S-based cubes, I believe. And it helps forecast what employees you need to staff for the next week, and down to 15-minute counts, and it has tasks in the store. So you have 5 linear feet of banana shelves. How long does it take to stock that? How many people do you need to then to stock the bananas twice a week? So obviously all of those tasks were massively wrong. There's whether or not we even get bananas. Now we have to clean everything. So we started hiring a lot of external cleaning crews, and then hiring anybody, 20,000 people that we could to clean the stores, stock the stores, deliver the groceries, and just how do we onboard these people quicker? And the forecasting ended up having to kind of be plugged so that they could look at what it was yesterday and then project the same thing for tomorrow and just keep moving forward. It was a heavy lift. But I do feel like we added value to our customers. does feel strange to not hear anybody talk back to me. Like I'm not exactly sure if what I'm saying is ringing true with the rest of the retail folks, but I think you can imagine. We also had to keep our prices steady. So all of these costs are going up, and it is costing a lot more to deliver. However, you can't do that to folks. So we just, because we're selling everything in the store, we saw the volume helped with that, but it was basically a big price investment that we had to do. We also had to make sure that people didn't have to pay extra to have the groceries delivered to their cars. So we took away all the fees for ordering online during the height of the COVID. So there were also some barriers to tracking pickup and delivery, and we had to get IT just go out there and solve it, because we have to know what the pickup and delivery increases are so that we can plan for them, because we were not staffed for people to go around the grocery store and hit what we call pick and pack all of the groceries that we're going to take out and put in your trunk for you. The also strange part, so we saw this huge uptick in our company credit cards, because we're just like, go out and get it. Just go get it. And if you don't have an invoice, just go get it. Just solve it. We empowered everybody to solve it. So now we have to map a lot of those things in finance to find out what they used it on. So if you bought PPE on your company card, now we have to go make sure that gets mapped to the right place for our financials, so that we can then again forecast what we're going to need later. I will say we didn't have a PPE account until about 5 days into COVID. All of a sudden we needed a new account as well. So yay, EDMCS, right? We had a whole new PPE account. Okay. So that's kind of how it affected finance. Analytics shifted. What is this going to mean for next year and our year over year next year? Yeah, we're already thinking of that. So I'm already trying to figure out the budgeting stuff. But luckily, we have a team of folks that are already way out ahead of that. It'll be interesting. I think it'll be a combination of where we're at next year with this, and probably 2 years ago, we probably have to go back to a combination. So I do think people have found that they enjoy cooking at home a little bit more. And so I think that might continue for a little while, but we'll see. Okay, so my department. I put the first bullet. It was strange. It felt like I didn't even get to say goodbye to some people or hug them. I talked to them every day, but it felt weird. So we thought we were coming back the next day. I left all the stuff on my desk, and I was in a team room for the project, and so I had all of the stuff sitting there, and I had monitors and all that. And they said, go home. And I still had stuff there until about a month ago. I went in and got my some protein bars I'd left in a drawer. They're all expired and gross, and picked up some of the spare stuff I'd left. But a lot of folks I had to send back. They needed their screens, their desktops, anything for remote work. We had some folks that took home their desktops, and my team obviously has laptops. They need to do a lot of remote work already when they're at home at night. But I will say that not everybody on the GL team had that. Some of them are still on desktops. So we sent all that home with them. And then we ordered laptops for everyone. And then I think a lot of you folks know that laptops were absolutely sold out all over the world for a while. So I'm sure that would make an interesting hearing how the laptops, like Dell or Lenovo or some of those companies, and HP, how they had to spin up too. But interesting. We started doing more Skype, Teams, and Zoom meetings, just like this conference. And it was interesting at first, and it was, we were getting used to it, and now it feels comfortable. It feels easy. I think we finally got to the place where we had to hire some folks, and I didn't feel like they needed to be local any longer. I don't know that. I have friends helping us out in India, and that's been really convenient to meet with them in the morning, and then later in the evening, and then all the stuff we worked on during the day, they can continue to work overnight. I'm not sure we aren't more efficient. Our CFO was talking about, how we're going to find more time to do this implementation. And I'm like, I don't know about you guys, but I got 45 minutes back every single day from my commute. So that's at least what I can give you. And we're talking more and more about being a more global workforce, instead of everybody just needing to be right here and sitting in your office. So I will also say there's lots of kids in the background, and dogs barking and birds chirping and folks outside or people out of breath while they're walking and listening to a meeting. I love it. I don't know why I love it, but I feel like there are times to sit in a room and hash stuff out and write on a whiteboard and hammer through something. But we found a way to do it. I think we found a way to ignore the noise in the background. I also find it endearing somehow. So I like it. And EPM is not a 9-to-5 job, and I don't think it ever will be. We need people focused on making decisions and entering data during the day. We can't take down their systems. So we need to be able to work at night, or flexibility, or put things in our stage and test environment during the day and then convert and test at night. And being able to do that and give this flexibility that you can do it at home, or spend lunch with your family and then log in after dinner, get it done. There's a value in that too, and knowing that we have that value. It's interesting. So that's why I put, we're still at home. But I also put here that the cloud doesn't need us to be in one place. It doesn't need us to be in our building. My boss asked me, he goes, "Where is the cloud? Everybody says cloud. I don't know where it is." And I go, the best answer I can give you is it's anywhere that's not under your desk. So the days of some computer running something and sitting underneath somebody's desk are over. We're now focused on core competencies. Kroger sells groceries. We're also a logistics company, and we are a huge analytics company. And we're also a big philanthropic, zero hunger, zero waste. But we are not a computer company or a software company, and we shouldn't be. And we should focus on our core competencies and what we're good at, and buy the core competencies from the people that are better at that. So the consulting firms that are supporting us, that's their core competency, implementing these things, helping us, writing the books that we use to train our teams. I really can't say enough about Edward's books. But I also couldn't say enough about Oracle and the products that we're using and the support they're giving us. So not having to support that on our own servers, being able to call them when we have thousands and thousands of users hitting it at one time, and just instantly expand the CPUs and LPARs and whatever words they're using for that now, and then contract it back again, it is fantastic. Our closing cycles is different. I see I only have 5 minutes, and I want to make sure you guys get to ask questions. So I think I stopped sharing.
We have a few questions coming in. Robin's going to throw those up in just a second, but I just wanted to say I completely agree with you on children and dogs on meetings. When it first started, everybody was a little embarrassed, and I adopted a rule that if a baby or a child makes a noise or a dog makes a noise, you must immediately put it on camera. And if you ever have a meeting, no matter how bad it's going, if there's a puppy or like a small child, just smiles from ear to ear across the entire thing.
I agree.
We've adopted to the point where I don't want to go back because I would miss babies and puppies that I get on Zoom meetings.
I really like that too.
Do you miss the cats?
Cats, they have their place when they're kittens. It's, I'm not necessarily a cat person. I believe all dogs go to heaven and cats go to the other place. But yes, kittens do make you smile as well. Robin, what questions do we have for Elizabeth?
Yep, just a couple have come in. Elizabeth, you mentioned early on in your presentation that you weren't immediately looking at the data when the pandemic hit. So I think someone's wondering, how soon after the pandemic announcement did you really start to pay attention to the data and pivot?
That's a good question. And I think that's more me personally, because I'm like, I think I might have just assumed that we can handle anything. I do think as a company, we were starting to see it, but I think the part that I think surprised us is absolutely emptying the shelves. We didn't understand, I still don't understand why everybody needed that much toilet paper. So I think that was what, maybe I'm not understanding, but it was a good question. So we watch the weather. We watch power outages. We watch forest fires. We watch all that, and we put trucks of water and essentials and things that people stock up on during those things, like a hurricane. So Texas, we will have trucks staged right outside of Texas, ready to go in there and deliver all this stuff that we know people are going to run to the grocery store and buy because there's a hurricane coming. With this, first of all, there wasn't anything else we could go get. We were emptying our shelves into or emptying our DCs, our distribution centers, into our grocery stores. And at that point, we had to go get more trucks to go help our suppliers deliver to us. So how soon did we pivot? I think the very first day that we saw the uptick after work, and I think we saw that first day was maybe in the 20% year over year. And we're like, what? Why are people scarcity buying right now? And I guess we didn't anticipate that a pandemic would make people not go to the grocery, but we started understanding that it was less about going to the grocery or trying to stock up, and more about limiting your exposure risk. And that's when it made a lot more sense for us to try to make people feel comfortable to come back. So they wanted to go and buy as much as they could so that they didn't have to leave their house again. So.
Right. Well, okay, good. All right. A couple of other questions have come in. What is your closing cycle?
We are a 13-period closing cycle. So we have 13 4-week periods, and our fiscal year end is generally beginning of February. So we just closed period 8.
Okay. All right. Another question is, was your current technology able to keep up with all the changes you had to make in finance?
It was in finance, and I think that's the cloud and Essbase and Dodeca and SmartView. It was the team massively writing, changing things. But over time, what we've learned is the only thing constant is change, and so we know they will always add new departments. They will change sales. They will change the budget. So because of that, we've put in a lot of process where you can push a button, and as soon as they key a new figure, it automatically goes to hundreds of databases, and it proliferates, and it does the calc, and it does an automatic allocation. It does everything at the push of a button because our users expect it. They're making decisions based on this data real time. So.
Gotcha. Good. And one final question, because I know we're right at time. You touched on this a little bit, but how will you be changing your planning going forward to prepare ahead for scenarios like this?
Man, somebody's good. I think making sure that flexibility is really ingrained in more, even through pushing it through some of our source systems. So we need to be able to pivot. We also need to be able to do more scenarios. We have a limited number of scenarios that we look at, and they really need almost an infinite way to do scenarios. So we're putting a lot of metadata in place that lets them grow instead of fixed scenarios. I just added like 50 of them. So go in there and use whichever ones you want. But build for flexibility, expect the unexpected, let your users and business drive that. And because of your experience and your knowledge base, and you can design that for them. So when they come to you saying, this might be hard, Elizabeth, and they always ask the right question, which is this going to take 5 days or 5 weeks? And I'm like, that's a good question. And, but always be able to say, yes, that'll be pretty easy. Essbase, Oracle can do that. EDMCS, we can add a scenario. We have an extra dimension always built in. That's like calc dimension, so that we can run, it's a dense dimension that we can run calcs on. And sometimes we'll just dump stuff in there until we can figure out what the right answer is. So have the flexibility, have those extra dimensions. And we couldn't do that before. So the cloud, the speed of technology, everything else is letting us create much bigger data sets, much bigger cubes, things that we couldn't do before because we were limited by really having to tune it, and it had to be faster. And things are fast now, and even though they're massively huge. Like Edward said, we really have more data than people want. A level of detail that gives them profitability by item, by channel, by department, by cost center. And they deserve that. They need that. They can't make decisions without it. And that makes for a very, very, very sparse, giant data set and big cube that needs to run fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much for sharing how Kroger, your finance department, and your team dealt with the impact of COVID. We really appreciate you being part of the virtual conference today.
It was absolutely a pleasure.
Yes,
I miss my friends.
We miss you too. We're so happy that you were here. Thank you for not only being a leader at Kroger, but being a leader in the community. And in 15 minutes, slightly less than 15 minutes, we'll go over to ATW. But thank you so much for taking time out today, Elizabeth. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.